Hi, my name is Dan Tombs, and today I want to talk to you about how to set up your on-call rotas inside Jira Service Management. Now, the on-call function actually came from Opsgenie, but during the recent updates and stuff, we now have the ability to do it directly from Jira Service Management. Where to find this is on the left-hand side underneath the Operations tab, you'll find the on-call option. Click on that. And then when you start up, you obviously won't have any teams. So go ahead and click add a new team. Once the teams is loaded, you'll be able to quickly add a new team. So we're just going to go ahead and create the support team. And we're going to add the members straight away. So I'm going to say that both Dan and Becky are part of this support team. And that Dan will be the admin of that team. So now that we've got that, we're able to instantly jump straight into the on-call area. Now, this by default sets up a very basic routing rule, escalation policy, and an on-call schedule. If none of these were here, you do have the buttons at each section just for your ease. But we're going to go ahead and now edit the support team schedule just to fit what we want. So we have the little pencil mark that we can edit. We obviously have the name of the schedule. And we have the time zone. Please make sure you do select this. This becomes very important when you're dealing with the out of hours items. So we'll hit update on that. So now we want to focus on the actual rotation. Now, as I said, it builds in a default one. So we're just going to go ahead and edit the option that it creates. So we're going to change the name just to call main rotation to make it really clear. By default, again, it adds every participant in. Depending on how you may want to work, you may only want to have certain people in or bring in more. Please make sure you do that using the search bar. You have your rotation type, which I'm just going to change to daily. You also have your own custom. So depending on how your team works, you may be able to do that. And then you have your period where you want to start and the time on. So if your rotations start at 9 a.m. on the workday, please feel free to add those in. So I'm just going to go make that change too. And you can see it starts to shift in. At the bottom of the page shows a slight preview. It shows your main rotation and your final schedule. This is obviously a combination of both the overrides and the rotations, which I'll show you in a second. And I'll hit update. So if Becky happened to be off and we needed to override to Dan in order to make sure that the on-call schedule was always covered, we can go ahead and select the right one. We can hit override, and that will start to pre-fill some of the information in for us. It will select the available user that we want to use, the rotation that we're covering from, the time zone, and the start and end date. So if Dan happens to only be covering part of Becky's shift, we can actually go ahead and select the right time period. So I'm going to ahead and actually say it's the 10th, and we're going to say that Dan is only covering 5 hours of the said shift. So I can go ahead and hit add. And then when that brings it across, you'll see an additional option here in the overrides, and that is shortens Becky's shift down here. So once you've sorted out your schedule, you can go ahead and check your escalation policy. So this is what happens when a major incident or something that gets raised to the support team happens. You can continue editing that escalation. It's just a when, if, then statement. So if an alert is not acknowledged, then do this, etc., etc. Very simple to add. You have two options: acknowledged or closed, a time section, and what to do and who to notify. And then once you've done that, make sure you send your route alerts. So this is how you want to route. Do you want every alert to go through to the support team, or do you actually want to add a rule which says you only match depending on the priority? So only send anything that is equal to P2 through. That is how you set up your on-call rota and dealing with your escalation policies. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.